Welcome in. It is great to have you with us today. Whether you are prepping for a meeting or maybe commuting or just looking to feed your curiosity, you are in the exact right place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because today's deep dive is centered on a very specific mission. We're going to closely examine a piece of storytelling that just completely fundamentally rejects the boundaries of genre.
It really does.
And we were working from a single, rather brief source today. It's a transcript excerpt from a YouTube video. It's titled The Alien Trilogy Science Fiction, and it was uploaded by a channel called The Magic Boy.
Right, and even though it's brief, it is a dense, highly poetic piece of text. It reads almost like a mythological prologue.
It does.
It packs an enormous amount of thematic weight and really striking imagery into just a few lines, which leaves a lot of room for interpretation.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are looking at a narrative that takes rustic folklore and immediately introduces classic science fiction tropes. The tension between those two styles is palpable right from the jump. I mean, we have a mountain village, kids in a forest, extraterrestrials, and terrestrial magic, all occupying the exact same space.
What's fascinating here is the seamless, almost unbothered blending of those worlds. You rarely see ancient mythological elements coexisting so casually with extraterrestrial concepts.
Yeah, usually it's one or the other, right?
Exactly. Typically, a storyteller anchors their world building in one primary reality. It is either a speculative sci-fi piece where technology drives the plot, or it is a rustic fantasy governed by magic. But this text from the Magic Boy just flat out refuses that dichotomy. It treats both realities as simultaneous and completely equal.
Which brings me to the opening line. I'm really curious how you read it in that context. The text begins with, in the old days, in a village on a mountain, a group of kids stayed in the forest.
It's a classic setup.
Right, to me, it sets up an immediate expectation of traditional folklore. But knowing the title of the video, it creates a strange sort of tension for the listener. We know the setting is pre-industrial and isolated, which leaves the characters entirely vulnerable.
And that vulnerability is key. The text uses the phrase, in the old days, to establish a deep historical isolation.
It sets them so far back.
Yeah, it places the characters far from the infrastructure or the defensive capabilities of any modern society. And placing the kids in the forest adds another layer of primal exposure.
The forest is always dangerous in these stories.
Always. The forest is a liminal space. It is outside the safety of the village bounds. It's a place where the community's rules no longer offer any real protection.
And that is exactly where the narrative pivot happens. We are naturally primed for a localized threat, like a predator in the woods or maybe a folklore entity. But the very next line shifts the paradigm entirely. It says, a fleet of aliens came from the sky, took a child, and the child never came back.
Such a jarring transition.
The text just pulls the rug out from under you. We go straight from ancient pastoral isolation into an extraterrestrial abduction.
I would argue it goes even further than a standard abduction narrative. Think about how those stories are traditionally framed in modern media.
Usually it's a lonely highway, right?
Right, a highway or suburban homes. They happen to individuals surrounded by the trappings of a technological society. The fear stems from our advanced technology being overpowered by something even more advanced.
That makes sense.
But by moving the inciting incident to an ancient mountain village, the nature of the fear changes. It becomes entirely elemental.
And the scale of it stands out to me as well. It doesn't say an alien ship arrived. It specifically says a fleet of aliens came from the sky.
A whole fleet.
Yes, a whole fleet. The disproportionate nature of a massive sky fleet arriving just to take one child from a forest is haunting. And the phrasing is incredibly blunt, too.
Very blunt.
There is no lingering description of glowing lights or hums of engines or tractor beams. It just states the event as a harsh, unalterable fact. Took a child, and the child never came back.
The lack of technological awe in the narration is a very deliberate choice, I think. The narrator does not pause to express disbelief that extraterrestrials exist.
They just accept it.
Exactly. In the logic of this localized world, an alien fleet is treated almost like a catastrophic weather event. It reads like a plague or a sudden famine. It reframes the science fiction trope not as a mechanical marvel to be studied, but as a devastating, incomprehensible hazard of the natural world striking a vulnerable community.
That unchallenged acceptance of the bizarre is what paves the way for the next big narrative shift. Right after establishing this cosmic extraterrestrial threat, the text introduces witches.
Right back to Earth.
Yeah, and not just witches in an abstract sense, but specifically witches who use mantras alongside hidden treasures and the thieves who steal them. It suggests that this mountain ecosystem was already incredibly complex before the Sky Fleet ever even arrived.
The introduction of witches using mantras shifts the story firmly into the realm of grounded, terrestrial magic.
How so?
Well, a mantra implies a systematic, vocalized form of power. It is a spiritual technology that relies on breath and human effort and ancient rituals.
Like a structured practice.
Yes, a deeply human practice. This creates a fascinating contrast with the silent, distant, overwhelming nature of a fleet from the sky. We are looking at human-scale magical practices existing in the shadow of cosmic technological forces.
We also have the inclusion of ordinary human greed woven into this, right? The mention of hidden treasures and thieves anchors the story in very conventional terrestrial motivations.
People are still going to be people.
Exactly. You have thieves trying to steal treasure from witches, all while an alien fleet is actively operating in the sky above them. But the text doesn't stop at local magic and local crime. It expands the scope drastically by explicitly mentioning previous lives and dropping the name Lord Brahma.
That expansion alters the entire framework of the story. Lord Brahma is the creator god in Hinduism, and the concept of previous lives brings the idea of reincarnation into the fold.
Which is huge for a sci-fi story.
Massive, because science fiction usually operates on a linear timeline. A society moves from point A to point B, they invent new things, and they progress into the future. By weaving in reincarnation and a cosmic creator, the narrative introduces cyclical time.
Meaning history repeats itself.
Right. It suggests that an encounter with an alien fleet might simply be one fleeting event within an endless cycle of cosmic design.
It makes you reconsider the stakes of the abduction entirely. If previous lives and the creator of the universe are active elements in this narrative space, the abduction of the child isn't just a physical displacement, it might be part of a vast spiritual cycle.
And the narrator seems highly aware of how demanding this worldview is for the listener. There's a specific line where the narrator promises to tell this alien story straight.
I love that line.
It is a brilliant rhetorical device. By promising to tell it straight, the narrator is asking for our narrative trust. They are acknowledging the seemingly chaotic, unbelievable nature of the events.
Because it is a lot to take in at once.
It is. They know they are holding an extraterrestrial kidnapping in one hand and the creator god of the universe in the other. But they are insisting that, within the reality of this village, this is simply the historical truth. It is a metatextual nod to the listener, effectively saying, stay with me, because there is a unified truth to be told here, even if it defies your categories.
And the narrator does earn that trust by posing very specific atmospheric mysteries rather than just throwing chaos at the wall.
They focus the narrative.
Yes, exactly. The text asks two distinct questions that sit right at the core of this narrative. First, what is there on the alien's rock? And second, why was the Golden Palace built in the Gila land?
The ancient land.
Right. The text notes that the Gila land translates to an ancient land. These two questions side by side create an intense atmosphere that deserves some really close attention.
The juxtaposition of those two questions is the beating heart of the text. Let's look at the phrasing of the first one. What is there on the alien's rock? The word choice is stark.
It is very blunt.
It doesn't ask what is on the alien's planet or inside the alien's mothership. It reduces their origin point to just a rock.
That word strips away any assumption of a glittering advanced civilization. A rock feels barren. It feels geological and entirely lifeless. It implies a void.
It does. It removes the technological gloss we traditionally associate with extraterrestrial life.
The shiny chrome ships and all that.
Right, all of that is gone. It frames the alien world not as a futuristic metropolis, but as an inhospitable, mysterious stone suspended in cold space. It invites a real sense of dread.
Because you are picturing the child stranded there.
Exactly. The listener is forced to picture a child taken from a lush terrestrial forest and placed on an empty floating rock.
It's a terrifying image. And then immediately after conjuring that cold, barren image, the text forces us to look at the second question. Why was the Golden Palace built in the Gila land?
The sensory contrast is staggering.
We move straight from a barren rock in the void to a golden palace in an ancient terrestrial landscape. It is night and day.
The linguistic and cultural weight of that contrast is profound. Gila land, representing an ancient territory, carries a phonetic and historical weight that rubs up against the stark, modern, and clinical English word alien.
They just don't seem like they belong in the same sentence.
They really don't. And then the Golden Palace represents the absolute pinnacle of human, or perhaps divine, terrestrial opulence. It implies royalty, warm architecture, and deep history. By placing these two questions together, the text forces the listener to grapple with the friction between them.
It naturally makes you wonder about the relationship between the two locations, too. Like, is the Golden Palace somehow connected to the alien rock?
That is the big question.
Was the palace built as a monument to the Skyfleet, or maybe as a defense against it?
Or perhaps it was built to hide the treasure from the witches, completely unrelated to the aliens. The text refuses to give us the answers.
Which is so frustrating, but brilliant. By forcing those distinctly different aesthetics to collide, it creates a very specific emotional state.
The emotional state it generates is one of profound disorientation, which perfectly mirrors the internal experience of the village itself.
Because they wouldn't understand what is happening.
Right. The community does not possess the modern scientific vocabulary to process an extraterrestrial event. They only have the vocabulary of myth, ancient lands, golden palaces, and spiritual mantras.
So they use what they have.
Yes, they are attempting to conceptualize a trauma from the stars through the lens of local folklore. That is why the alien homeworld is conceptualized simply as a strange rock, and why their own landscape holds mysteries as grand as a golden palace.
That idea of the village's internal experience transitions us perfectly to the climax of this excerpt. After layering these massive cosmic concepts and magical elements, the text suddenly narrows its focus back to a very human, localized struggle. It describes a 6-year search through the forest.
The time jump grounds the narrative immensely. 6 years is a significant duration, emphasizing the enduring trauma of the community.
It is a long time to look for someone.
It represents a relentless, grueling effort by the village, or perhaps a specific individual, to find the abducted child. And they are searching in the forest, the very liminal space where the kids were originally staying when the Skyfleet arrived.
The psychological weight of a 6-year search in that specific environment is immense if you think about it. You are an inhabitant of an ancient mountain village. A literal fleet of ships descended from the sky and took a child. And for 6 years, you are scouring the woods.
The paranoia would be overwhelming.
Exactly. You have to navigate the local dangers too. Witches chanting mantras, thieves looking for treasure, all while dealing with the lingering terror of the sky. Every time you look up through the branches, you are reminded of a cosmic threat you cannot comprehend or fight.
It compresses an epic, sprawling quest into a single haunting detail. It grounds the massive genre-bending concepts back into a terrestrial emotional core.
It brings it back to the people.
Yes, despite the presence of alien fleets and the creator of the universe, the narrative engine driving the story forward is the search for a missing child. It provides a relatable human motivation that gives all the surrounding bizarre elements a sense of purpose and real stakes.
It makes you ask where this epic 6-year mashup of sci-fi and mythology actually leads. And the text gives us one final summarizing line to conclude the excerpt. It states that the story is ultimately written about the magic power of the boy.
That concluding phrase serves as the ultimate synthesis of the text's themes. We began with a child abducted by an advanced alien fleet.
All right.
We journeyed through a landscape populated by witches, mantras, and mythological gods.
Yeah.
And we arrive at a resolution where the boy possesses magic power.
It is so telling that the text doesn't say the boy returns with extraterrestrial enhancements or advanced alien technology. It explicitly uses the phrase magic power.
The vocabulary is key here.
The journey to the alien rock fundamentally transformed him, but the only way the village or the narrator can articulate that transformation is through the language of fantasy.
The text ultimately treats alien phenomena and magic as interchangeable concepts. In a worldview where witches chant spiritual mantras and Lord Brahma oversees previous lives, the abilities gained from an extraterrestrial encounter are not categorized as a scientific breakthrough.
They wouldn't even have the words for it.
Exactly.
Oh.
They're categorized as magic. The boy is not viewed as an alien hybrid to be studied. He is deeply integrated into the folklore of the ancient land as a magical figure.
It honors both halves of the genre mashup perfectly. The science fiction element, the abduction by the Skyfleet, serves as the catalyst, but the resolution is articulated entirely through fantasy and myth.
And it leaves so much unsaid.
So much. We don't know the nature of his magic power. Does he understand the technology of the Skyfleet now? Does his power rival the mantras of the witches? Leaving the listener with those lingering mysteries is a mark of deeply effective storytelling.
It suggests that our modern strict divisions between science fiction and fantasy might be somewhat artificial. To a vulnerable village in the ancient days, a starship descending from the sky, and a witch's spell manipulating reality are both expressions of power that exist far beyond everyday human understanding.
They are essentially the same thing to them.
They both inspire the exact same awe, terror, and wonder. The text refuses to draw a line between them.
That brings us back to you, listening to this deep dive right now. Why does a brief translated transcript from the Magic Boy actually matter to how we consume information?
It is a fair question.
Beyond being a highly imaginative concept, it serves as a reminder that breaking the rules of structure often yields the most compelling results. You don't have to keep ideas siloed. You don't have to choose between a high-stakes, sterile sci-fi thriller and a rich, ancient mythological fantasy.
You can have both.
Smashing them together creates friction, and that friction creates something deeply memorable.
Looking at the bigger picture of our media diet today, we are constantly dealing with information overload. We are accustomed to highly categorized, algorithmically sorted content. Everything is neatly labeled, so we know exactly what we are getting.
The algorithms love boxes.
They do. But a text like this resists categorization. It forces our brains to work differently, to connect concepts like space fleets and ancient gods that we normally keep in entirely separate mental boxes. It challenges our assumptions about how narratives are constructed.
That disruption of expectations is where the real joy of discovery lives. It is a tiny, brilliant puzzle box of a story. But before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with one final thought based on the implications of this text.
I love this part.
If a child is abducted by an advanced alien fleet, and the story concludes with that same boy discovering his magic power, could it be that in the eyes of an ancient mountain village, advanced alien technology and magic mantras are the exact same thing?
That is the ultimate question.
If your culture does not have the vocabulary for quantum physics or anti-gravity, doesn't a glowing, floating rock simply become a magical artifact? Are magic and science merely two different translations of the exact same power? Think about that the next time you look up at the night sky.
It really reframes everything.
It sure does. Thank you for exploring this fascinating piece of storytelling with us. Until next time, keep diving deep.